Morning, everybody. Give me a second. Sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Loud and clear.
All right. For some reason it's not on my headset. Testing again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. And you're on the phone. You're on the meeting, Ron Piccolo. Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
For some reason my headset's not working. It's going through my computer. We'll just go with it. I wanted to give a shout out to Ron Piccolo. I was down earlier this week. No less than 3 people came and said how instrumental Ramp was to their business, and that they're actually up this year over last year. So, Ron, you're invisible, but let your gratitude be felt from South Florida. And today I wanted to talk about my mindset was, what if in real estate we had a salary and you had regular income? Who thinks that would be great, and who would be bored with it? You still hear me, Robert?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. So nobody's answering, huh?
No.
It's a tough question. I think part of what gets us into real estate is the unlimited ability and the flexibility of our time. And I think people out of real estate is the potential to be excessively exposed to using your time and the inconsistency in income, correct?
Yes.
And my premise for today is that the real estate has trends, ups and downs, right? And I think the business this month, for May of 2023 versus May of 2022 is down by 20%. And I think, by and large, most of our incomes are down slightly. But one of the conversations that I had with some of the agents that were, at the same level or even a little bit above, was that maybe they're, working, twice as smart, twice as hard to make the same money or a little bit more. And the way that that's done is through, systems and predictable revenue. And, having been exposed to agents for 30 some years now, those who do things predictably wind up with a more favorable result, and most importantly, a more consistent result. And I don't think we need to do too many things. I just think we need to do 1 or 2 things exceptionally well. And I don't know if anybody on this call, has a consistent amount of income from maybe one source that they've been doing over the years. That's kind of like their safety net that covers the mortgage, the grocery money, and all the expenses, or most of the expenses. Is anybody in that category? Everybody's quiet. So I'm going to say that when I first started out, there was a woman named Judy Bell who probably back in the late 90s, made 150,000 plus just from doing Sunday open houses. That was her thing. She was consistent with it. She had a strategy, and I used to laugh because she would tell all her friends and relatives, if you invite me to something Sunday afternoon, you basically know I'm not coming. And, I, at the time, I didn't realize how profound that was. But as I mature in the business, I realized that, that one piece of business was her certainty. That was her crutch. That got her more listings, that got her abundant relationships, that got her buyers for the week. This is what she did for other marketing: 0, nothing. She was very untech savvy through her entire career, but all she did was every Sunday she did open houses. You know how much money she spent on realtor.com and Zillow? 0. Okay. I do think she did a little bit of mailing when she had a listing, but that was just part of the system that she had. And it wasn't a farm mailing everywhere. It was, I have a listing, I send a mailing out in that area. Maybe it was a 1 or twice and done, and 150,000 in the 90s. So today I put together a few things that, intellectually, I think might be able to tie it home for a few of you, that can get you that core amount of business that would be like having a base salary with a bonus if you did these items. The first one that I put together was, a geographic farm. And I didn't put it as mailing. I use it as a geographic farm. And that's because it's more than mailing. It's mailing. It's either doing phone calls or door knocking or knowing the neighbors from open houses, whatever you need to do to really be immersed in that farm And shout out to Lori Caruso for this is if you have a budget to mail 1,000 pieces, pick 500 homes and mail it to them twice a month instead of 1,000 once. Okay. Having that second piece of mail did a couple of things for her. One is intimidated the competition that nobody else wanted to mail in her area. And number two was it really gave her that premier market presence in there so that when she went on appointments, everybody knew who she was. And, her market share in that area in terms of, every transaction, this is only real estate talk. If there's 10 transactions and you can do 11 of them because we count transaction sides because there's 20 sides, one list, one buy. So she's regularly in the 80 to 110% market share of all those transaction sides. So if there were 10 sales, she's getting 8 to 11 of those in her market. And there's usually more than that. Second recurring business source that I'm going to mention is, I don't know if we have David Heller on the phone here or on the call, but he exemplifies. David, are you on? So David exemplifies, using the RE/MAX network and even going outside the RE/MAX network to get leads from our industry. How many of us overlook that? Right? We look at everybody as like competition. We may have met some people, but we don't consciously make an effort to get referrals going back and forth. I see you, Ron. You're shaking your head. You agree with that, right?
No, we had probably 10 referrals sent to us, and I think we converted 3 of them out of the 10.
So Ron, I just muted everybody. So if you can unmute yourself to talk again. But if you go to the luxury forum, the elite retreat, R4, you go to your state convention, it's great. You learn stuff, you're introduced to new products. But we can 10x that by, building those referral relationships to get business going back and forth. And I think that's something that, Dave, you exemplify it. Some of the other people I've spoke to in the RE/MAX network have really been able to make significant amounts of recurring revenue through those relationships that they've created. Okay.
By the way, my rampers out there, today is our last class, 13 weeks. I'm very proud of them. They're killing it. Doing great.
What have you seen from some of your better performing students, Ron? Like, do you have any results that you track?
Yeah, a lot of them are, most of them are getting listings. They're holding open houses. They're following the system and putting deals together, doing well. So it's moving along. The thing with the ramp program is that once it's over, like today's the last day, they need to go back and review the whole program again for at least another couple of few weeks, just to reiterate what they've learned and what they see in the videos. But they are doing well. I'm very proud of them. They show up on time, and they're very energetic, and they participate in all the classes, and I just love it. I hate to see them go. I miss them.
Well, you can stay in touch with them, Ron. It's all good.
Of course, yeah. But we meet in person every Friday.
So, I know that there was a saying, knowledge is power. Anybody ever hear that saying?
Of course.
Who agrees with it?
Absolutely.
I agree with it.
Now, I think I heard Colleen's voice there, and Colleen is like me, has, we'll just say more than 10 years experience.
Yeah.
11.
So Colleen,
Thanks, Ron.
Colleen, let me ask you this question. How many people have you come across in your career that are very knowledgeable? They know what they should do, but they don't do it?
More than I'd like to see.
prob-
Probably, I would say 75%.
75% know what they should do, but don't do the things they know. So I'm going to go on record saying knowledge is potential power. It's only power when it's coupled with action. And I'm going to take it even a step deeper. When it's coupled with, consistent habitual actions, does knowledge really become power? Because
I agree.
I've even seen people, Colleen, and this blows my mind. And the ones that come to mind, and it's not a setup, but the ones that come to mind aren't in the business anymore. But they're so talented. We used to have some call sessions. We would do activities, and I remember doing some call sessions way back in the day when I used to do the roundtable calls. Robert, remember those days?
I do.
And we would have tremendous results. Like, an agent would be struggling. I'd take an hour. I'd sit with them. We'd make calls for an hour. We'd get a $680,000 listing that sells. And Colleen, you want to know how many times they did that calling again?
I'm afraid to ask.
Never. Right? It really blew my mind. Like, how can you, and an hour to get a $680,000 listing is extraordinary. I don't want to set the wrong expectation, but we had this call, we set the appointment, listing appointment set, listing appointment held, listing taken, closed, paid, and the person never did it again. And you might think that this is too far-fetched, Rob. How can that even be? But I will tell you from the bottom of my heart, this is a process that repeats a lot. Colleen, you're saying 75%. That may be the number. It may be that high. And that's what I want to try to, instill is, the uncertainty in this business is painful. And I feel that from a lot of our peers, and it doesn't need to be. Okay. Every type of income has risk. I met with an agent. Is Fozzie on?
I am. Hi, good morning.
Hey, Foz. So we met with a very talented agent my last trip down there, who basically, her spouse, her husband, was a senior level executive making good money, lost his job, and our agent had to rise to the occasion to keep the lifestyle. And that's not a story I've heard once. It's a story I've heard a lot of times. And I mentioned this for several reasons. One is because she's amazing that, she took charge with that. But the second part of it is, if you're a C-suite employee of a big company, making $100, $200, $500,000 a year, okay, there's risk there, right? What happens if they decide to have a layoff and you lose your job? I would rather be in our position because we have complete control of our destiny. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I think we always think about it, Fozzie, we think about it as, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a steady income?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a steady income, what's stopping somebody from above you, or, if the business isn't doing well, from just saying, hey, we're folding, good luck. And then you have to try to find a replacement for that. And, honestly, sometimes you never do that. When I started out, that same story about a spouse losing their job and somebody doing real estate having to replicate a significantly higher than six-figure income to keep the kids in private school, to keep their house and their lifestyle. When there's a will, there's a way. And that agent actually wound up, by their third year in RE/MAX, being the #1 individual agent in RE/MAX in 1997. And it was because, part of it was necessity. Part of it was discipline, knowing what you're going to do and doing it. So for those of you who are newer in the business, you might just say that sounds interesting, but I really can't fully embrace it. But, I just wish I could share with you that it's so true that, we all have it within us. We can choose to participate and listen to what's going on, or we can choose to, do the things consistently and watch the results continue to come in. The good market that we had before produced bad habits for a lot of agents. Okay. And, when the market is so abundant, it enables us to have bad habits and still make good income. And I'm gonna reflect that back on Colleen, because we've both also been through several different ups and downs. And sometimes don't the ups create such bad habits that are hard to reverse?
Yes, and I think one of the problems is that realtors as a whole do not treat their career as a profession. They don't run it like a business. You will find that the agents that run their career, I'd like to separate the two, career as a profession, as a business, tend to constantly succeed no matter what the market is.
That's a good point, because that was one of my classes Tuesday, was having a standard. When you have a standard in your business, when you have a standard, that's what you achieve every day. Your business is a standard. You get up at 8 o'clock, you start your business at 8, you work to 5 or 6, or whatever hours you have becomes a standard, becomes a habit. And that's what gets you the income. When you fluctuate those times and you come in at 10 and you work to 2 o'clock, or you come in at 8 o'clock and you work to 12, you can't expect a steady income. You can't expect your outcome to be a positive outcome. And we talked about that on Tuesday. Forming those habits, that's standard. You brush your teeth every day, the same thing. You go to work every day, you do the same thing. You continue to keep that flow going, the habit going every day, and there's no way you can lose.
Ron, that's so true. And you are a perfect example of a person that operates their career as a business. Your knowledge is invaluable.
Thank you.
And Ron and Colleen and everybody here, I'm always amazed at some of the people that are successful, know what to do it at a high level. But I look on the call that we have every week in the meeting, there are some people on this call that I'm like, on paper, they don't need to be here because they're doing so well, and it's very humbling to see, those people at the highest of levels, still absorbing information from what we're talking about here. And maybe it's, Colleen, we need to have this refreshing, we need to reiterate it so that, we don't lose sight and kind of, navigate off 1% every month. And after 2 years, we're off by 35% due to compounding, right? And to stay on track 99% is pretty tough. But if you go off 1% for 2 years, you're kind of in the ditch with your career.
So Rob, one of the, part of what you just talked about is, what I sort of experienced when I first got into real estate. I found out that, I had a lot of friends, and I found out that many of them were much wealthier than I thought they were. And it really launched my career because they all used me as their realtor. And then one day I was sitting in my desk in my office, and I realized, okay, I've run through my friends. Now what do I do? So here I was a very successful agent, won awards for the company I was with at that time. And now suddenly I had to figure out how to really start my career making the business happen. And that was really a rude awakening because it had been going along so smoothly. And I kept thinking that was easy. But it made a difference. And to Ron's point and everything, I had to look at it as a business, and what am I going to do every day now, because I still have my expenses that I have to deal with and everything. And became a tremendous motivational factor, and really set me on a path to be much more successful.
One of the things that, if you look at this group, I noticed a couple of months ago, we were in the hundreds of people on this meeting. Today we have, what do we have? 64 right now. And I think if you're not careful, you can get yourself into a rut if you're not paying attention, if you're not keeping track of things. For everybody that did the ramp, I think one of the best parts about ramp is tracking what you're doing on a daily basis. You know, for the old timers on the call, there was a course years ago, Sweat Hogs, Floyd Wickman course. And so the premise there was, again, tracking your daily activities, things you do, habits you change before you can change, and creating new habits. So I think that if anybody's in a rut, it doesn't matter what the market is. I've seen in my tenure, I've seen agents be uber successful in what was considered to be the worst of markets. Why? Because they didn't change their habits. They did the same thing every day, over and over and over. So I think that's a hook there. Successful people do things unsuccessful people either don't or won't do, and that's part of it.
Yep, that's a good point. The tracking, when you mentioned about the numbers, is tracking your numbers. And I was telling the agents the other day in my class that track your numbers because your numbers don't lie. So, you know, look at your numbers every week, look at your numbers every month, and see where you're lacking and see how much more you need to do. So if you need to make 2 more deals or 3 more deals, then you need to hustle a little bit more. If you look at the numbers tell you everything.
So Ron, you know, Fazia and I had this conversation as we're looking at, you know, opportunities that come our way down in Southeast Florida in terms of, hey, you know, when I look at a brokerage or an opportunity where we can grow, how it's a good fit, how they run the business and whatnot. You know, I'm very particular looking at all this information. And then, you know, Faz and I were talking about, you know, we should evaluate ourselves the same way we evaluate a business to see how we give ourselves a grade. And there's a lot of things that we found that we can improve based upon the way that we evaluate others, if that makes any sense.
Sure does.
And I also want to share a visual. And if you were to look at what does if you're in the groove, is that positive? Ron, if you say you're in the groove in this business, is your business like coming together, everything's working out, right?
You're in the groove, of course.
You're in the groove.
Right. And then if you're in a rut, nothing's working out. But if you look at what the visual is, like I look at a groove or a rut is, you know, 2 tires going through mud and they both leave evidence. One person might call, look at that's a rut. Well, look at that groove over there. You know, you can drive your bicycle right through the groove, and the other one person can say that same groove is a rut. And it just depends on what side of success you're on. Does that make sense? And what keeps you?
1000%.
When you get into a rut, I mean, everybody does. I mean, that's the nature of our business, but it's nothing that you can't dwell on it. You know, you have to kind of maybe take a day or take a couple of days and then reevaluate everything, go back to your business and then fix what you need to fix or correct what you need to correct to make it get back on track or get out of that rut. We had a class a while ago about being stuck in the mud. But when you're a good agent and you're used to making a certain amount of money, like Tony Verl, Tony Verl is up early every morning. He does his expired listings, he's on the phone. He has a regimented time that he does all his work. And that's with Scott Kaplan, that's what all the top agents do. And that's where you make your money. And that's where you keep your business, on a steady flow. But there are ruts that you're gonna get into, and everybody's gonna have those. But you can't get stuck in those for too long, because if you do, then it's hell to pay.
And you know, the other thing that comes to mind, Ron, when I think about all this is, you know, in order for success to happen, a lot of things need to fall into play, right? And there could be one deficiency could eliminate 90% of your success. And a lot of times that's habits. That is the deficiency, but it could be other things. And as I look at some of the great things that are being done around the company, some of the fantastic transactions that are being done, they're never easy. There's always 9 subplots to the story. And I don't know, Ron, you know, do your students come to you and you share with you their challenges, not only once they get the listing or once they, you know, get under contract, of all the possibilities that can go wrong?
Absolutely, they do, yeah. And I try to steer them out of that, and just give them some advice that I've encountered in my business. So, I mean, there's always going to be fires that you have to put out. There's always going to be issues, but you got to stay strong, and you have to have the knowledge. When you talked about knowledge, got to have the knowledge. You know, the experience comes later. The knowledge is mostly important. That's why the classes, the ramp course, I mean, this is what really keeps your skills sharpened, so that you're able to adjust when situations come at you. That ramp program was really good for my group.
So, you know, just this week, I had a $25 million individually producing agent, phenomenal, still top producing agent, you know, call me for some very basic advice on a transaction where the buyer and the seller are both attorneys. Can you imagine what's going on there?
Yikes.
Right? Isn't that like the work? Isn't that like have the recipe for disaster?
Oh, God.
And it was, they both want the same thing, but they're steadfast to drive my highly talented agent crazy, and even make her second guess some of the things that she's doing. But basically, you know, you need to manage the emotions, set the expectations, and move it through. And I think it's coming together. As of yesterday, I heard that it looks like it's all resolved, but you know, this was going to get, you know, it has 9 different twists to it. Okay. And there's so many stories where there are so many twists to a transaction. And perhaps part of this is also, can you imagine like the home sellers and the home buyers, like they don't understand like all the things that happen behind the scenes. Like, you know, how do we come up with this great cake at the end of the day? You know, there's a lot of different steps that have to happen, and you know, some things along the way that we are conditioned to resolve, even if they're unique every time. So if there are agents that are doing all the right things, but for example, some of the newer agents are having a hard time, you know, getting the listing appointments converted. Okay, you're doing all the activities to get yourself in front of them, and you know, for the more experienced amongst us, that seems to be the easier part of it. But if you're doing all those activities and you're not converting them, like that's that one piece which is not the biggest piece to our success, but it's the biggest thing that can derail you from, you know, the final outcomes. Okay. And I don't know.
You know, you always kind of, when you're in this business, no matter how experienced you are, you still learn and you still experience different situations. And, you know, I still learn things. I mean, I learn things from just listening to you guys sometimes, you know, just to hear certain things that you guys do. I go, oh, that's a pretty good idea. And I tell my agents the same thing. I said, you know, you might hear me say the same things over and over again, but the little tidbits here and there you pick up and you go, oh, I can apply that to my business. But staying on track is the biggest thing. And it's the hardest thing to do, but you got to do it. I mean, if you want success, you have to do it.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, the ramp, the big why, that is really key for me. And when I found my big why, then I was able to be motivated enough to get out of that rut. So I just wanted to share that, that's the beginning of the ramp class.
Yep. There's so much information in that course. We're in the last section of it, and I was reading it last night. And when you think about all the things that you learned in the 13 weeks we did this course, because it revamps everything that we did, that we went over. It's just amazing how much information there is in that ramp course. And that's what I tell the agent. I says, don't abandon this once you're done with it. Go back and study your book again and go back to the videos, because a lot of that stuff, you forget after you finish the course. You go, done with the course and that's it. No, it's not it. It continues. And you got to keep doing it over and over again. And that's why I said, go back to your books, start learning. Start reviewing back on everything that you did, that you learned in the course, and apply it. Just a couple little things here and there that you pick up that you can apply towards your business is worth a lot.
And, Ron, sometimes I also see that people try to be experts at too many things. Do you observe that?
Sometimes, yeah.
And I think, my Judy Bell story about, this, woman that had a hard time, doing an MLS search in the early 2000s because technology was not her thing. But doing these open houses got her 5 million or more every single year that she was affiliated with me. And, she was always in the office. She had certainty that it was going to happen. The story about, telling her family and friends, if you invite me for Sunday afternoon, you're just wasting your time. It was a true story. And she would actually get upset when she'd be like, I can't believe my nephew invites me here. Doesn't he know that if he wants to have his christening, he should do it on a Saturday? Those are that was the way that, that Judy was programmed. And sometimes, if Judy tried to do 5 things, she might have not been as successful at anything. So I have a couple other things that I jotted down. It wasn't a setup with Ron, but like open houses and expireds. Not open houses and expireds. FSBOs and expireds. Does Tony just do expireds, Ron, or both? Or Tony, you're on.
He's
Yeah,
here.
Tony's here. There you go. Yeah, right now, there's very few Facebook expired. Certainly, you got to follow up on those first thing in the morning, because they are the people that they want to sell. And then the next thing you got to do is go back to your database, because the database that you have, they know you, they like you, and they want to do business with you. So I have for example, for the old timer, like myself, Ron, and a bunch of others, we have a lot of people that they are in their homes now for 20, 30 years. So you need to stay in touch with them, because they want to move, sooner or later they want to move. And they are the easy ones, to come and list me. So I just got 3 of them this past week, and they already sold. So it's just amazing, the market here. It's a very, very tight. So don't waste your time with buyers unless you have the inventory, because without inventory, you got nothing. A lot of times people call, they want to buy, but there's nothing for them to buy. But you put them on the list, and soon something comes on the market, you call them up and say, hey, I got this one here, or this one came on the market, and are you interested in it?
It's funny because Tony and I pretty much started around the same time, and a couple of other guys that we were in. It's a little dinky office in Sunrise, but we taught ourselves to be listing agents rather than buyers agents. You have to work buyers, of course, but when you're a listing agent, that's where the money's at. And
Well, we did, there was a 10 people office that was, and we were all doing the same thing. And I came with the idea of the Al Capone way. You take care of that corner, you take care of that corner. Ron was taking care of his corner, and we were all successful there. We controlled almost, I mean, I controlled 50% of my market that I controlled.
Yeah.
So it was unbelievable. We were young and restless there, and our schedule was Tuesday in Key Largo because our boss had a house down there. And Thursday was shark sandwich at the Shooters, you know, because there was a nice and juicy one. And Sunday was bikini contest. And in between, we were doing real estate. It was unbelievable time.
You're making a lot of money.
Yes, yeah. Well, you know, the other thing was that the average price range was $70,000, $80,000.
Yeah.
So I used to sell 8, 10 of them every month. I used to sell them.
So Tony and Ron, you'll appreciate this. We have a team member here or an agent with us who's been Chairman's Club or above for 10 years in a row. And I was shocked when I heard what he does on New Year's Day. Anybody want to guess what he does on New Year's Day every year?
But he knocks on people's door. Or...
He calls the expireds. He's like, so many people in his market will put 12/31 as the expiration date. And maybe he has a compromised audience because everybody's been drinking a little bit too much the night before, but he makes a ton of appointments on New Year's Day. And he's chairman to diamond member, which means, for those of you who aren't familiar with all those, it means that in 10 years, he's never made less than 500,000 GCI, and he's been over $1 million. And every New Year's, he's on the phone making calls to expireds. I was just blown away by that.
Yeah, because everybody's home. Yeah. And also, I don't know how it is in New Jersey or other parts, but here in the area, for some reason, we got into the habit of putting expiration date at the end of the month. You know, all the listings I get, it's always at the end of the month, So the first of the month, you have more expires that you have. So, and you got to be on top of them. Otherwise you lose them. Yep.
So for those of you who are newer in the business and this is your first market adjustment or market correction, it's happening for a reason, and it's maybe taking away the bad habits that we created in the abundant times so that we can, readopt the things that are best for our consistency of our business. Okay. I had a couple other things that I kind of jotted down. I know some members on this call and some people that I've spoken to, and even a retiring team that was looking to sell their business, had a tremendous amount of residual income, in this case from Upnest, Ideal Agent, Home Light, Dave Ramsey, like 4 or 5 third-party referral sources that were only pay as you go, so that there was no fixed overhead like a Zillow. And they produced, 3 to 5 listings per month. 3 to 5 listings per month. And my thing was, well, how do you got to pay a lot of, referral fees to get that. And he's like, look, my average list price for these areas where I'm in is higher than the general market. So I'll pay a 30, 35, 42% referral fee for a $800,000 listing all day. It's better than a 350 listing. Sometimes we get in our own way with the way we think.
The other thing is that don't look at the price, just do the transaction, because the money will come and the price will go up, anything like that. Because especially when you have clients that they call you, you cannot say, well, you're too cheap for me, I don't want to help you. Whenever they call and whatever comes your way, just take it, focus on the transaction, because that transaction He's going to give you more transaction because you never know who you're going to talk to, who you're going to meet, that you're going to meet. You just got to be consistent. Which Ron said before, it's very hard because everybody pulls you different ways. But if you, I see that most of the successful people that I follow and I watch, if you put together you make a holy time, just like you come to Jesus, from 8 o'clock in the morning to noon, that you make sure that nobody bothers you. That your job is to make appointments, you're going to be just fine. Your business will never go down no matter what the market is.
That's the standard. That's the standard we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Everybody has to have a standard in the business. If you want a business, you got to have.
But what I will say is that the morning routine, that's a very, very sacred, that you got it. Just like I just went to a doctor there. That I went, he said, no, I see what do you call their client, the patients at this time, because in the morning I am in the surgery room. So he cannot talk to anybody when he's in the surgery room. So he said, this is when I see my patient. I said, all right, good. I'll come over there. So, and we realtor, we think that our time is worth nothing. We give our time away like we are nobody, that we are. And if you talk to any other professional people, doctors, attorneys, whoever, CPAs too, you got to make a time. You got to make appointments that you got to make. And that's what, we should do too.
So
back to the professional, we are professionals.
Exactly. You are exactly right there. And then you have a schedule. And I met this guy who came to this country from Mexico there years ago in 1996. He came under a train because he could not get in, to the country. And this guy, I went to follow him. And the only thing he did from 8 o'clock in the morning to whenever he finished at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, is talk to people. I was at his office. And somebody came to list the house and said, no, you got to make an appointment for this afternoon because I'm ready to go to talk to people. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And what do you call it? And this guy back in 1996, he was making $6 million, $7 million a year by just doing that, just by talking to people. And the average price there, because he was on the east side of LA, Van Nusen, Aventura, whatever it is that they call it, Encino, and the average price back then, it was $250,000. And some of the homes, because he went to knock on doors, some of the homes that were condemned because they just had an earthquake. But this guy didn't know there was an earthquake there. He kept going every day. He said, Tony, I have 5 zip codes. And I do those 5 zip codes twice a year. And they know me and they're waiting for me or they call me. I said, oh, okay. I said, whatever you say. You're right.
Yeah, we met him at
consistency,
We met him at Tom Ferry's when we went to California.
To California.
We went there a couple of times, and this guy was just amazing. He was he had a standard in his business. He made a lot of money doing it, and all it was is knocking.
It's consistency, because you cannot do it once when I feel like it, once in a while, because you get rusty. Do you imagine now the baseball there, the Yankees there, the guy they're batting? I don't feel like doing today. He makes millions of dollars, and I don't feel. No, he goes there. He goes to hit the ball, and to hit the ball, he has to be ready. He has to practice. And if he doesn't do that, you say, "Oh my God, that guy's finished."
So Tony, you said that you don't turn down a small deal, right? You just take the business, right? You don't look at the size.
If they come my way, sure, I cannot.
So I've noticed that in a lot of successful people that, they're not, snobs to a transaction size. And I'm going to try to connect a few random thoughts together here. But, we had an agent up in Morristown who since retired, who had the Honeywell account. I don't know if anybody's aware of Honeywell. It's a pretty big national company.
yes.
and they had a relationship with Sendent Relocation.
Uh-huh.
And this particular individual was the only agent that didn't go through Sendent, because what he did is he did a transaction for the maid of, or cleaning person who really struggled to buy a house, and actually was the person that worked at the human resource manager who did all the placements for relocating employees. He got that cleaning person, maid, whatever you wanted to call her, a house. And she was so grateful that she shared it with John over at Honeywell. And John's like, I have to meet this guy. And until the day he retired, he got the business directly because of that relationship and because of the way he treated this person buying in 1996, probably a $65,000 house that nobody else would service. And he did tens of millions of dollars in business because of that. Okay. And we could spend the rest of the next 10 minutes on this call with people telling us, because I see the heads nodding about when we've done something for somebody and that their parent, you sold a $60,000 condo in 2002, but their parent had a $2 million house in Colonia, right, Rob? And
Yeah,
somebody got that listing, right? I mean, there's tons of those stories that are out there because it's about the relationships. Yeah, the servant's heart.
If I could throw one thing out there for everybody on this call today, be a contrarian in this market. You are going to be compelled to cut back and to stop doing things. And I can tell you that your competition's doing the same thing. You should double your efforts right now. Go to see as many people as you can, send out as many extra mailers, make double the calls, meet as many people as you can. If you can meet 5 to 10 new people every day, you will be successful. Be a contrarian. I've seen it 3, 4, 5 times already in my career. People are giving up all around you.
And the key to the whole thing that he just said is follow up. If you don't follow up, you lose money. You lose your client. You got to follow up. All the leads that you make, all the calls that you make. In our database, we went over this yesterday in class. In my database, probably 300, 350 prospects in there. I would say maybe 10 of them are going to be listing between now and the end of the year, and maybe 5 of them next year. But it doesn't matter if you don't follow up and see how things change, because things happen in people's lives. So if they say they're going to sell next year sometime, I stay in touch with them either once a month or once every 2 months by either mail, text, call, phone call. And eventually they're going to list with me because I've been in touch with them. And things happen where they're, oh, well, we were going to sell next year, but we have to move because something happened. My husband got transferred and now we have to move. Now, if I would have let that go, I would have lost that listing. So those people, you stay in touch with them and follow up with them all the time. And that's where you'll get the transaction.
So Ron, you probably know more than me. You have more knowledge than me, but you're on these calls here, and I think you probably pick up something occasionally from the time you spend here, right?
Of course.
Now, I want to ask anybody who's regularly on these calls, do you have a ready, willing, and able buyer, but there's no inventory for your buyer? If anybody wants to volunteer, is anybody in that boat? So Rosa, so you have somebody that's a really qualified buyer and there's no inventory for your client?
Yes. Well, let's put it this way. There has been inventory. We've actually placed 2 offers, 3 offers. 2 of them didn't get accepted. And on one of them, we went through the inspection period and they backed out. It's a young couple. they're looking in Boca, Boynton, Deerfield, Delray.
They're pretty flexible, right?
They're pretty flexible. They're great to work with, but now there's really nothing for them. At least now they,
So Rosa, if I told you that I cared about you and then you knew there was maybe a little bit of a suggestive criticism coming your way, would that be okay?
yeah, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, at least now we've narrowed down. At first they were flexible. They were willing to make repairs. It didn't matter. They just needed the location. Okay. They're very qualified, so they can buy tomorrow. Okay.
How much time have you invested either working, searching, would you say you spent on them in total?
Well, we've been working for the last 3 months.
Probably well over 40 hours of time, right? Maybe 80 hours.
Oh, yeah, quite a lot.
So on these calls, we've got a nugget from a very wise man here, which I think probably nobody's taken advantage of. And I would go into, as they're honing in on what they want, I would call the most productive agents in those areas and say, do you have anything coming on? I have a very well qualified client. Has anybody done that and done it successfully?
The problem is, I guess, I really don't know anybody at Remax, maybe a handful.
Well, no, but it doesn't have to be Remax. You can go
Oh,
into
yeah.
you can
Other
go in,
agents.
no, you can go into the MLS where your client wants to go and see who sold who's the top 1, 2, and 3 listing agents there, and call them up and say, hey, I just want to introduce myself, see if you have anything coming on in these areas. And if you called, if they had 3 areas and there were 3 or 4 people, you'd probably have to make 10 calls. If you make 10 calls, the first time, only 2 of them are going to pick up the phone. You're going to have to call them back and text them, and it's not going to be easy. But if you do that activity, I'd say you probably have a 50% success rate in finding a property that's coming on the market, or maybe is off the market because they don't want to show it. Maybe there's a relative in there that's not well, or some unique circumstance, and you can make a sale. I know, Robert, you raised your hand. You're the one that taught us this here several times on these calls. And I thank you for that. But my thing is, that's potential power. That knowledge without action is nothing.
Yeah.
And Rosa, I'm not being critical at all, but most people don't do it.
No, I never.
But you have a young couple that's very well qualified
and is really willing and able.
And you have already invested 80 hours or 40 to 80 hours. I know how much time you put into your clients. Why don't we do that? That's a great tip that we put out here that I think most people haven't taken advantage of. Is there anybody that has heard that story from Robert? We spoke about it once or twice, maybe 3 times, that has actually done that successfully on this call.
Rosa,
I've done that a few times, actually, Rob. And unfortunately, I don't have a positive yet, but I keep doing it.
Okay. Well, I mean, and it's not going to work every time, but it's definitely going to work none of the time if you don't do it. Anybody else?
If the agents are receptive, it's not a problem with the agent. They just haven't had the specific criteria that I was looking for. But I've never had a hard time speaking to the agents or not sharing upcoming listings that they had.
Yep.
I had it happen yesterday, believe it or not, with an agent down in Neptune, New Jersey. I called to show one of her listings. She says it's just coming out of attorney review. She asked me what they're looking for. She said, oh, I have this one coming up on this street, and I have that one coming up on that street, and I'll call you as soon as I get it. So if you bond with them, it works.
You can also call FSBOs. If you got a buyer looking to buy whatever price range, just call a bunch of FSBOs. They'll work with you.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times we call them, and when we want to get the listing, it doesn't work. But if you really do have a buyer, right? There you go, Ron. Another great tip.
Thank you.
We had an agent that had to stay home for medical reasons for 2 weeks. I called to check in on them, and they were playing around, looking at some investment properties and sharing it with their clients. Just yesterday, they got the check for a $1.1 million closing. It was almost $34,000. And I want to tell you the story, and this is especially for the newer agents and this person's experience. So limited inventory, multiple bids, had to pay full price. The property appraisal came in, and it came in $125,000 below asking price. What does that do to most deals? $1.1 million sale, 125 under appraised. So Ron, does that normally go into the dead pile, right? The seller is absolutely not going to go down because they had other offers that were cash. And they're like, I'm not going to, you can do an appraisal, you can have a mortgage contingency, you can do a home inspection. I'm not doing anything. It's not that uncommon today, right?
Not uncommon.
So again, the agent called me up, Rob, can you help me get this appraisal fixed? I looked at it, and this person was buying it purely as an investment. And if you haven't looked at an appraisal, maybe this will be a good lesson for everybody. They did the appraisal by two approaches. Who knows what two approaches they use when they do the appraisal? They do the sales comparison and the income approach, right? When it's an income property. So the sales comparison approach came in at 975. The income approach came in at $1,232,000.
Oh,
And the agent didn't even pay attention to that part because the lender just said it under appraised. So we had a discussion with the buyer. We said that we could switch it to a commercial one. Your rate will be significantly higher if you want to do that, but the value based on the cash flow is $1,232,000. You're getting $132,000 of a deal. A sales comparison approach, it's 125 below, but you're not buying it to live in. So if you'd like, I can introduce you to a commercial lender. We can cancel the deal, or you can move forward with it at the residential rate that you have. And the person closed on it and felt very good about it. They felt like they got $132,000 steal on it. Tell you that was in the direction of a dead deal because of underappraised. And this is a very extreme example of a diverging valuation. But if you're buying it for the income approach, what's more relevant to you? Rob Durso, what do you think? You do a lot of commercial. If you're buying it for income, do you care about the sales comparison, or do you want to look at what type of money it puts off?
No, everybody, that's what they care. What's the cap rate?
Yep.
What's the return on my investment?
So
and people buying that kind of thing will understand that too. That's part of the reason you can talk to them.
So there's 2 points to the story. One is, sometimes these deals die because we don't exhaust all of the efforts that we have. We just get caught up in the headline news, which is underappraised. And the second part of the story is, here's somebody that medically had to stay home for 2 weeks, and probably had one of their most productive 2 weeks by scouring for investment properties when everybody says there's no good deals out there, and selling a $1.1 million transaction while he was laid up for 2 weeks. You make of it what you will. You put Ron Piccolo at home with a broken leg, he'll probably double his business, right? Because your arm still works in your mouth. Anyway, I hope that inspires you. I hope that when you're out of inventory, you call the FSBOs, maybe you look for expireds that haven't gone on, that don't want to list. You call some of the top producing agents there, but most importantly, we don't feel helpless. Okay, because we do have options. Mickey, eventually that's going to work out for you. I know it will.
yep.
So have next Monday, I'm going to be on a cruise, so I'm not going to do the peer-to-peer, but I will still do the mastermind next Friday. So just make a little mental note, peer-to-peer is off. And I'm thinking of putting that on hold until September, because some of our peers are going on vacations. Does anybody have any thoughts on suspending that until September? Good, bad?
I think it's, maybe we could just do one, a month.
Just to keep it going? Okay.
Yeah,
Any other
not,
thoughts?
not to lose, not to lose our momentum.
Exactly.
And then, who made the comment about, like, we used to have 100 and something, now we're down to 60? Was that you, Ron, or was that Rob Durso?
That was me.
So Rob, how do I make this better so that we get 150 on here?
Well,
It's
I think
summertime
part
right
of-
now, too.
I think it's summertime, like Ron was gonna say too. I think that we just have agents are on vacation and stuff.
but they're not all going to be on vacation at the same time.
So,
No.
but forget about summer, but how can I make it better? If anybody wants to stay on and just,
What I
me
was
some
going to
thoughts.
suggest is, we have some really amazing folks that are on this call every week that bring a lot to the table. And, sometimes it's easy as either managers or owners to tell people what they can do. But it might be really cool if we could hear from some of the folks that are actually doing it. I know we've done a couple of things in the past like that. Maybe over the summer, if we could get a couple volunteers to talk about what they're doing on a regular basis, what works for them.
Or even
Nuts
some
and
of the,
bolts.
yeah, even
Rob.
some of the new agents that are, they're all dealing with certain issues and problems that maybe the group can help them.
Yeah, Q&A one day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Allow the agents, Rob, to pick the topic.
okay.
So let them have suggestion box or whatever, and you pick a suggestion out of that suggestion box.
Well,
And-
that's a great idea, Foz. How about if anybody on has a topic for next week, if you want to put it in the chat before we wrap up, I'll use that to try to formulate a way to drive more value.
The other thing that I've noticed, which I think would be a great topic, if anybody has objections that they don't know how to handle, send us an email and maybe we could collectively talk about how we might handle an objection. Just to give you a couple different ways of doing that.
Good idea.
And Rob, the objections, and I know, being in the business as long as you are, we anticipate objections so that we never get tongue twisted when we come across them. And you might think that this is crazy, but I actually look forward to the objections coming in because I feel very comfortable being able to address them. And even if it's something that I don't know for certain, I can pivot away from that and also, kind of come back to what's the relevance to that one piece in the overall decision-making process.
So what might be a really great meeting would be you or anybody else that wants to, showing people how you do that by using the right words, by asking the right questions. How do you actually pivot? How do you actually bring it back around? These are things that, a lot of us have learned over the years by experience. And maybe there's folks out there that panic as soon as, somebody says, well, I don't want to pay that commission, or I don't want to list for that long. Maybe we could talk about, well, how do you,
I want to think about it.
So the technique of being able to pivot is a big deal.
We have to go to a listing appointment. I'm going to say goodbye.
All right.
Cruz, and anybody that wants to join my classes on Tuesdays or Thursdays, let me know.
Fantastic.
Ron, when are you doing starting ramp again? Because I couldn't sign up this time. I had conflicts on Friday.
September.
Okay, great. I'll be there.
Okay, so Rob, that's a great idea. And I wanted to, if somebody says, I need to think about it, I think we probably ought to revisit, even the way that we handle our listing clients. In other words, if we get a listing and somebody's not happy, what if we gave them the ability to, hey, if you're not happy, you just tell me, hey, I want to get released from the listing, and you have 7 days to fix it or give it back, right? Now you might say, that's crazy. Everybody does 6-month listings, but that would help you get listings more easily. I think the likelihood of people, pulling out if you're doing a great job is very low, and it kind of puts your money where your mouth is. Now, if you're not the best listing agent, then maybe you might not want to do this, or maybe you want to figure out how you can become that agent that nobody would want to walk away from, because we don't, in general, tie our buyers into an agreement, right? And Rosa spent 80 hours on a qualified buyer and still has nothing yet.
Mhm.
But maybe the listings, we need to rethink how we position our value, how we address our value proposition.
Yeah. And one question I'd like to ask is there a way that we can get a list of all the offices that are part of Remax Select?
We've been
Yes.
talking about putting that together.
Okay, because actually my son's girlfriend just joined our team, I guess, Remax Select out of the West Coast.
So would you want that on like on a map as well as like the addresses, or would you want it just as a bunch of addresses? Because it looks it's just overwhelming when you have all just the addresses put there. I'm just curious what the best presentation would be.
Probably a little map for those that have problems with directions like me. Just a list of, Remax, office 1, 2, how many offices do we have down here? And just a way for us to be able to reach out, to our teens, because we may, like I said, there may be an office in Palm Beach that I just have no idea who is there.
We have the hub. Rosa, I'll give you access to the hub. All of the offices are there with all of the agents. We have a New Jersey and Florida hub.
Yeah, it'd be great. Okay, perfect.
I'll send that to you now.
Thanks.
And Foz, maybe I'll have Fred just put it into like a map, so it's a little bit more of a visual to share with clients.
Yeah, that ought to be good, because I have told some of my clients that we have the ability to refer them and help them anywhere because of our vast Remax network and our own offices. So I think that would be helpful.
Fantastic. So any throw in the chat box topics for next week if you have any, and I'll keep this open. I know we're 12 minutes over, so you can drop off if you don't have any suggestions, and hopefully you can help me drive more value next time we get together. And just remember, Monday, no peer-to-peer.
Okay, enjoy your time
Right.
off.
Yeah, give me some challenging ones. I love the challenge. It keeps me motivated.
How to work with buyers that are on the fence all the time. Like this young couple, they were willing to buy anything, even if they had to fix it. And finally, we narrowed it down that they do not want to do the work after 3 months. So
your question is how to expand on what that particular question is for me.
When you have clients, I think we all deal with them all the time. Even in clients that want to sell. Well, I'm ready to sell now, but no, I'm going to wait till the market gets better, or those objections, or how to overcome those, or be able to steer that client in the right direction when you have them that they're all over the place. How do you zone?
Rosa, one thing that that I'm hearing, and it might not be exactly what you're saying, but sometimes sellers are like, I would be interested in selling now, but I have a 3% rate. That's hard to do. But the client that says I'd be interested in selling, but I don't know where I'd go.
Right.
Okay, that's the
Those are
one.
A lot of things.
That's the one I think we need a better answer to.
Yeah.
And I think if we have a process where, you know, maybe we even pull out a sheet and say, you know what, Rosa, I completely understand, but let me just share with you what we do that's different. Okay. You know, we'll call the top 5 agents in the markets that you're looking to see if they have any listings coming on so that we can get you a sneak peek before it comes on. Second thing we will do for you is, you know, I'll do a mailing. You know, if we list your house, I'll do a mailing to the area that you want to buy at my expense to see if there's anybody thinking of selling that I can get you in first priority. And you know, the third thing is, you know, I'll give you, and maybe we even need to come up with a name for it. We'll give you EI instead of AI, expert insight on making offers to buy a house. And I even like this idea. It just came to my head, but we have EI, which is expert insight, and this is going to give you the roadmap to getting an offer accepted based upon, you know, the competition in the market, the active inventory, and the behavior of the listing agent or listing agency on how they price homes. So it would be
I love
helpful
the
for you to
idea.
know.
That's
It
a
would be
great
help-
idea.
If it would be
Yeah.
helpful for you to know, Rosa, how does that agent or that agency price homes? Because there are some agencies that price them auction style all the time and it trips up your buyers. That would be you know, something that we could do. We have expert insight for buyers, and maybe we could even create a report that shows you how to win an offer in that area.
Yeah, I'm saying, you know, for topics to have in the future, those are things I guess that we all deal with all the time.
But
Okay,
it's
well-
specific to your buyers, Rosa, that you're speaking about, that were all over the place and weren't sure if they wanted to do a tear down, if they wanted to do new construction. I think in the beginning process of when you're having the conversation with them is where that you have to take control over that, because when they have too many choices, they don't know which direction to go. So I think when you narrow it down, then it will narrow it down for them. And Scott did, if he's still on the phone, do you remember, Rob, who did on one of the calls where, I don't know, he only takes them to a certain amount of houses because at the end, it will always be the power of 3. I think he only maxes it out to 5, and then they narrow it down to 3, and then from 3 it goes to 1.
Yeah, they started out at a maximum of 400K. Now they're at least going up to 5K.
Yeah, so yeah, and Pazia, how many times do we have some of these great ideas, but then we forget about them, right?
Yeah, we forget.
Because Scott's very, very fundamental, and I think I'm going to be assessing it correctly, is I go to show you, let's say it's 3 to 6 houses, right? And you print out an old fashioned piece of paper, right? You look at the first house, what do you like about it? Make notes on the back. You go to the second house, what do you like about it? Make notes on the back. And then before they leave, which one do you like better? Okay, this one's the leading candidate. Go to the next house, write notes on the back, look at the 2 homes, which one's better? When you're done, you know which house they like.
Yes, that's exactly how I explained it. And it's the visual impact, yes.
I mean, it's pretty powerful, but I would imagine most of us don't do it. And then, you know, we have an agent in Montclair where the market notoriously underprices homes. And even before this COVID boom, it was habitually underpricing homes for excessive competition, just how the market was. And this agent is like, you know, Rob, sometimes, you know, I want to be such a friend, a problem solver. I'm like, all right, we'll make an offer. We'll do this. He said, I need to be more direct with my clients, especially buyers, on what it takes to get a transaction done. I need to have more confidence instead of being wishy-washy. And, you know, I'll say, look, if you're seriously interested in this home, you know, I looked at the comps, I looked at the listing agent, we probably need to come in at about 8 to 12% above asking price. And you said that it's, you know, it's not what customers are accustomed to. But he said, if I go back a month and 6 months after these people bought the house, they're thrilled. And he said, that's what gives me the the belief that I'm doing the right thing because they're so thrilled having been in the house versus somebody who's still looking 6 months later,
That's true.
right? And you know, we all have these techniques. Oh, you pay 30,000 more, it's only, you know, $120 more a month. That's all true. And you need to kind of find out where the connection is with your client, right? Hey, you know, if you like this house, you know, let's come in at 80,000 above ask instead of 50, to make sure that you're the winner of this house. You know, you worked with 3 agents before me, not uncommon. You've been looking for 18 months or 5 months. You know, how many houses do you think people lose out on before they get one on average? Who works a lot with buyers?
I do.
Okay.
It depends on the situation and location, but lately, you know, back again with this young couple, the last offer that we made, we went over asking price by $7,000, and it was the day after they, you know, they listed it, and we lost out on it. Now, maybe I didn't know the market, and perhaps maybe I would have suggested, well, increase your offer a little bit more. Maybe that's my fault. But I don't know what, you know, what other offers that realtor received that they don't like ours.
So Rosa, how relevant are the comps nowadays when you're making an offer?
They're all over the place. That's the problem. I think you really have to know your market area. And again, I was not in my market area for that house.
Right, but honestly,
It's difficult to pinpoint, is that a good price for that house?
so Rosa, I don't think the comps have, I mean, it's one of the factors, but I don't think that that's a drop. Like if you're analyzing all the comps and telling them that, you know, based on the comps, you should make an offer of 410, and that's the only listing out there, and the last 3 listings sold in 3 days, the comps don't really matter.
Yeah.
It's about what the competition is willing to pay as opposed to what the comps are.
Right.
Right.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I see that with a lot of agents. They don't think they're doing their due diligence if they don't explain to the buyer that they're, in their mind, because of the comps, they're overpaying. But it's just like you said, it's what somebody is willing to pay. And what I've been saying to agents is, that's not your decision as to what the comps are, what you think the value is. The value is with the buyer.
And,
Yeah.
and comps and appraisals don't matter when you're competing with cash offers. Okay.
Exactly.
I helped an agent with a listing in Somerset County here because they're getting multiple offers, 14 offers on the property. We were talking about, you know, who's waiving all, like there's nothing wrong with the house, but we're like, who's waiving all the inspections? Who is completely waiving the appraisal? Who is waiving a part of the appraisal? These are all things that get factored into the decision-making process, right? And if you explain to buyers that, look, you know, we have a mortgage, you know, we're going to be competing against cash offers. We need to make ourselves appear to be more attractive than they are. So, you know, here's what it looks like. And if we bid 60,000 above the ask price, because that's where the competition is leading us to believe we need to be, that's going to be whatever it is, $229 extra a month. You know, are you willing to pay $229 to have a higher probability of getting this accepted? These are the way I believe our conversations need to move towards to better service our clients. Right. And Rosa, maybe one of the houses that they love that they missed out on, you know, maybe if it sold for 12,000 more than they offered, right? If they knew that, would they have paid more?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably, right? So,
But also another thing to keep in mind in the mindset of a lot of buyers in their mind, they think the properties are going down because of the market, because of the interest rates. So there's a lot of people out there that are like, you know, and even these kids think that the prices are coming down. So, but yet we're experiencing a market where our homes down here are still selling, you know, like pancakes. They're selling pretty fast. So
Right,
it's
that's
It goes back to knowledge is power.
knowledge, yeah.
This May, excuse me, was much higher than last May.
Mhm.
Our sales, our prices, everything's been increasing. If you pull the statistics from the MLS,
Right.
you're not telling them this is the facts, this is a visual.
Yeah, just give them a
Rob
paper.
does,
so they can see
Rob
it.
does a session on how to use those statistics. I think that works very, very well. I think we have to go back to some of those things, Rob. So maybe we can, make one of our sessions on how to present the market.
And maybe what we do, Colleen, is maybe we have like a co-host of somebody who's like doing what we're talking about, right? Because it's one level when, I'm sharing either a core belief I have or my understanding of what somebody's doing, but maybe it's a whole nother connection. If, let's just say Rosa was an expert at being able to get buyers to make the right offer, and she had 3 steps that she used, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
If we had somebody that could co-host that, it would be powerful. I spoke to an agent, I guess it was Tuesday night, and this agent is absolutely killing it. And she just said, Rob, the mindset from the first listing appointment we went on, completely changed the way that she engaged with buyers and sellers. And she's like, it feels so good just to be honest with them and just tell them, like, all right, here's what can happen. And she used to have a belief that I have to tell them a story that their house is worth more than it is so that she could buy the listing. And she said, I'm never doing that ever again. And it works so great. She's like, the last 2 listings, I thought I was losing them. They said they needed to think about it, which is odd, right? Because normally they sign up on the spot, and both of them came back to her. They said, we like the way that you shared the information. We like the performance that you've got on your other transactions. We understood what you're talking about. So anyway, I think, the real value is going to be coupling, the topic with somebody that's, executing the topic.
It's walking the walk and doing the talk. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, this is exciting. I'm looking forward to finding ways to improve what we do.
Well, the returning to, especially for Rose there and other buyer agent there, the market is so tight that, like you said before, if you go up 5 to 10%, no matter what they're asking, just go up 5 to 10%, you get that deal. Because I have a listing down in Miramar where until 10, 20 years ago, I could not even drive there that I got there. But now I got 400 people looking at this property, at this duplex there that I have. And I have all kinds of offers on it that I have. But the agent, that, like you said before, that was good too. Try to communicate with the listing agent, make them feel comfortable to work with you. And then you got to go. If the buyer wants to buy it, they have to go 5, 10% above it that they have to go. And the other question you need to ask them is, say, if you lose this house, which other house do you like? Which other house is there for sale? Because one of my buyer also that I'm trying to sell him a restaurant, he had a great deal, but he was talking about $100,000 here, $100,000 there. And guess what? One guy from Fort Lee, New Jersey, he came down, boom, he bought it for $200,000-$300,000 more than what he was thinking about buying it, and he lost the property and now he's kicking his ass because there are no other property like that he can buy, So it comes always there with showing the stats. The stats are unbelievable because they are not your stats. They are from the MLS, and you show to them, and then you show them that there is no inventory. So, and and I know that when there is no inventory, but there is the demand is there, guess what is going to do to the price? It's not, rocket science or anything. These people need to understand that. And if they don't, if you find the people that they want to steal a property, this is not a market to steal a property because the seller has so many offers on the table.
Yep. So Tony, Rosa, thank you for making this better. And I think we have some good topics to tee off on for next Friday. And everybody have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. All right.
Very good. Happy
Bye,
4th of
everyone.
July.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Weekend. Bye-bye.